Well, do I have something for you?
So you want to build your own shed, do you? Well, in this video, we're going to be building a shed. In fact, it's going to be a part of a mini video playlist, so we can break down the foundation, the framing. Of course, there's going to be, rebar in the concrete, and then go ahead and do, the roofing, siding, paint, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and mark out the four corners here along this pink string line with some spray paint, so that way I can get rid of the pink string lines and start digging with the Kubota tractor.
So in this video, I'll show you how to build a shed that will essentially last forever, starting with the solid concrete foundation. I went to Home Depot and rented a Kubota BX25 tractor with a LA340 loader and backhoe, which is the same as the LA344. The rental cost was $618 plus $49.50 in fuel, plus $92.70 damage protection, and $58.63 in sales tax, for a grand total of $818.83 for 2 days, because in Texas it was over 100-degree heat, upwards of 111 degrees. Make sure the tractor will fit through your gate before renting it. It took 1 hour to pick up and deliver the Kubota tractor to my house, 1 hour to lay out the shed foundation with the string lines. The digging of the Kubota tractor took me 2.5 hours for the first two sides, which is 21 lineal feet, 18 inches deep. 1 hour and 20 minutes to dig the 9-foot 6-inch side, and ironically only 35 minutes to dig the 12-foot side. That's 6 hours total with just the Kubota tractor, if the weather's good, and a half hour to move the dirt to the side yard, and 1 hour to return the tractor back to Home Depot. When digging with the backhoe, remove about half of a bucket worth of dirt at a time. Your goal isn't to get as much dirt per scoop. Your goal is to not have the dirt to the left and right of your trench become loosened and cave in. Whatever equipment you decide to rent, know what size, width, and depth the bucket is. This bucket is 12 inches wide, but it has a length of about 18 inches, so you can tell that you have gone deep enough to meet code requirements. Be sure to know your frost line depth if you live in a colder climate zone than we have in Fort Worth, Texas, which is climate zone 3. You'll want your footing around the perimeter to be 18 inches below the undisturbed soil, and your concrete foundation to be at a minimum of 6 inches above the soil, so that you won't invite issues with termites that come from the ground level. This is a code requirement. Before excavating your footing, you should call Dig Alert to locate any possible utilities, and Dig Alert will show up within 48 hours typically to spray paint or otherwise mark where the utilities are on your property. After all, you wouldn't want a shocking surprise and dig up an electrical pipe, or be flooded with repair bills if you tear up a water line or sprinkler pipe. Think about the underground projects that you may have already done and where the path of those various electrical wires or conduits, sprinkler pipes, AC refrigerant, copper pipes, also known as line sets, gutter drain pipes, sewer pipes, gas pipes, etc. On one backyard project we did, we called Dig Alert and they found an electrical pipe and a fiber optic cable. The electrical was 3 to 5 feet down, and the fiber optic was between the surface down to about 6 inches deep along the client's fence line.
So now we're ready to go ahead and put in the wood 2x6 forms with some 24-inch stakes that I got at Home Depot. I got 4 packs of these. We're going to see how far it goes. Should be more than enough.
Earlier I had run a string line parallel to the left side of my house foundation with a 5-foot offset, so I could transfer that line further into the backyard and make my shed parallel to the house and not be into the side yard area any more than the house is, which is a requirement from the city.
Got one side screwed in, now just go ahead and make sure it's level again.
In the Fort Worth, Texas area, my city requires a 6-foot clearance between the house and the shed, and then you have to have 5 feet minimum clearance between the rear of the shed and the rear property line. None of this can encroach into the side yard property area at all. So that's why I'm keeping my shed parallel with the side of my house. If you want to build a shed larger than 120 square feet, you'll need to apply for a building permit and provide the building department with a survey of your property, a plan showing the shed location, and some elevations for framing and finishes. After you have the first two form boards put in place here, use the 3-4-5 method to determine if the form boards are indeed square. 3-4-5, in case you're not familiar, refers to 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet. It could be 3 inches, 4 inches, 5 inches. And you could use it in any multiple of that. So maybe 3 really times 2 is 6. 4 times 2 is 8. And 5 times 2 is 10 feet. So depending on the size of your formwork, you just change it from inches to feet or whatever multiple, and that will help you make sure all of your stuff is correct.
So we have 2 sides of the form boards done already, and now we're on to the 3rd and 4th. I just need to go ahead and knock a little bit of dirt out here due to the changing grade of the soil here.
After you have all sides of your foundation form board screwed together and one side staked down exactly where you want it, in my case, in line with the side of my house, then measure diagonally both directions and adjust your forms until you get the same dimension on your tape measure. Then start staking down the form boards with vertical stakes and recheck that it is still square. When everything checks out, drive in some more stakes on a 45-degree angle approximately to help keep the form boards from twisting outward under the pressure of the wet concrete. Now that your form boards are in the right place, level, and staked down, clean up the footing trench to make sure you have the right depth of 18 inches below undisturbed grade and 6 inches above finished grade. So really we'd like to go, 18 below grade and 24 total. You can see this board here is actually at grade. So I'm at 21 inches right now below grade on this side. Go around the entire footing and get rid of any excess soil and roots that may be sticking into the area where the concrete will be placed. Then remove the loose dirt and debris. Go to your local home improvement center, and on the paint aisles you'll find rolls of 6mm plastic. 6mm plastic is the minimum thickness for a foundation vapor barrier per code. Some builders, like Matt Reisinger of the Build Show, have upgraded to a thicker plastic around 10 to 15mm. This plastic for a 10-foot by 25-foot roll costs $37.98 plus tax, and I covered this pad in 15 minutes when I heard it was about to rain.
Okay, now go to that corner. Okay, go to that corner. Okay, go to that corner. Is this side higher or lower? So that side's a little high. That side's a little low. Back in that far corner, that's a little high, and that's a little high. Okay, looks like everything is within about 1/8 of an inch of each other. Okay.
Now, in all seriousness, if you don't have a helper or alter ego pretending to be your helper, you can take your grade rod and tape it to a 1-gallon can and place it on each corner, making sure the grade rod is touching your wood form. Who needs a helper to hold your rod when you can improvise for less? That's using your head.
All right, so go ahead and take measurements here on a piece of paper so you don't forget what goes where, what height is what at what corner. So we had 3 foot, 1.5 at that corner. This is how you save yourself paying for a helper today. So now onto this final side here. We're gonna go ahead and put one here vertically, one here in the middle vertically, and because the dirt is a little higher in that corner, flush with the first set of form boards I put on, we're gonna go ahead and bring it in about 1 foot and put it horizontally. Now, if you have any gap between this board here and the next board, you want to put some pressure on it. I know we have a gap, so I'm going to go ahead and attach that 2x4 over there and then push it down, attach that corner, come back here and get to these 3 2x4 blocks. Okay, so we got a 12-foot side here, so let's go ahead and put blocks at what, 4 feet there, another 4-foot spacing, and obviously 4 foot here to the corner.
You can go to your local R1 Supply, also known as Rental One Supply, or your local home improvement center if you wish, to pick up 43-inch concrete dobies, 23 pieces of 20-foot rebar, tie wire, a 50-count box of 10-inch anchor bolts. R1 Supply is dedicated to the concrete finishing and masonry industry. They have loads of all the tools you'll need inside their store with enough friendly and helpful sales staff. Outside, they have loads of rebar, unlike my recent trip to Home Depot. R1 Supply also has a few tons of lumber for all your concrete form needs. R1 Supply can cut up the rebar into the lengths you need, provide the rebar stirrups to your dimensions for you, help you load your truck and trailer, or deliver it to your property. This video is not sponsored by R1 Supply, however, I did enjoy my time shopping there.
For this shed building project, we went ahead and already formed up the perimeter of where the concrete slab foundation is going to be. Of course, there's footings that go 2 feet deep, 18 of which is below the soil. And now we're pretty much ready to start installing all the rebar. As you can see, I already laid out a little bit of the rebar ahead of time, but we're going to use these concrete dobies here to help elevate the rebar up off this pad. So you're just going to want to slide those concrete dobies right underneath the rebar and then go ahead and twist it, right around 5 times. And then just go ahead and fold over that wire. So in this project, I'm using 1/2 inch, which is number 4 rebar. And of course, there's 2 number 4 rebars at the bottom of the footing, 2 number 4 rebars at the top of the footing here at the very end. And then I'm spacing this rebar about every foot apart, going both this way and that way.
Start placing the rebar in the footings and on the top of the pad. You'll need about 40 3-inch by 3-inch concrete dobies with the tie wire built into it. I purchased 23 pieces of 20-foot rebar cut into 11-foot and 9-foot pieces. 100 to 200 pieces, or simply 1 to 2 small bags of pre-formed tie wire with a little loop on the end of it. A tie wire twisting tool like this manual one, or an automatic one where you can just hook and pull like this one.
Now I'm pretty much done with this entire top grid of tie wire on the rebar. So I'm gonna go ahead and add 3 more dobies. 1 more up towards the middle, and then 1 here directly in the middle, and then 1 here at the back. And this way, if anybody decides to step on the rebar, it's not going to bend down at all, to the actual pad. So now, if I want to stand here, I can go ahead and stand on the rebar and don't have to worry about anything collapsing. Okay, so before we go cutting a whole bunch of them at 46 to create our little, saddle or whatever it's called, the stirrup, let's go ahead and try to bend one.
You will need a rebar bender tool to make the horizontal overlapping bends at the four corners and the rebar stirrups that wrap around the two number 4 rebar top and bottom every 2 feet.
Okay, this is not bending easy at all.
I tried to make a rebar stirrup with the cheaper red rebar bender hand tool, but after a couple of failed attempts to even come close to my higher expectations,
All right, well, this is pretty pathetic.
I looked online and found this clutch rebar cutter and bender at Northern Tool for $239.
Huh. All right, never mind. Concrete foundation grade beam need a rebar stirrup. Well, I found this clutch rebar bender and cutter over at Northern Tool in Bedford, Texas, and it was only $239, which is quite a deal because when I did a little research online, I found all the other brands were somewhere between $377 to about $800. I went ahead and picked myself up one of these rebar benders and cutters so I can go ahead and make a bunch of these for that grade beam that'll go, all the way around the foundation. Okay, and then you'll have a piece of rebar here, and then of course 2 down at the bottom of the grade beam. So I wanted to show you what it's like to bend this number 4 rebar with this clutch rebar bender and cutter. Along the concrete grade beam, which is a big thick part of concrete that goes around the entire perimeter, I'm putting stirrups every 2 feet. So whenever you're building a shed, a single-story foundation, or an addition with a concrete poured-in-place foundation, you're going to want to use these Simpson Strong-Tie anchor bolt brackets here to hold your anchor bolts in place. Now, the code requirements for a single-story building is that the anchor bolt must be within 12 inches of the corner of the framing, but not any closer than 4 inches. So I'm using a 10-inch L-shaped anchor bolt, and it's going to be 7 inches into the concrete, 3 inches out. That'll allow me for 1.5 inch mud sill, which is the pressure treated 2x4, and then give me 1.5 inch above that 2x4. The anchor bolts need to be no further than 6 feet apart for a single story foundation, and then if it's a 2-story, no further than 4 feet apart. Better to have more anchor bolts than trying to be cheap.
Yay, it's concrete day, and the 4 of us are ready to pour, float, and finish the new concrete foundation. As you're imagining doing your own concrete foundation pour, who do you know that can help you move concrete from the concrete truck mixer to the backyard? Push or pull the concrete around the foundation, agitate the air bubbles out, float and finish the surface. Albert from AA Concrete and Sawing ordered the concrete and brought his trusty crew over to do this shed foundation. About 10 years ago, Albert replaced my concrete driveway and walkways with something a little fancier than what I had before. To save a lot of physical work, Albert brought over his motorized wheelbarrow to help carry a lot more concrete per trip to the backyard. Ivan is operating the motorized wheelbarrow for the first part of this job and helping with the finishing a little later. Sylvester, aka Shorty, is one of the most hardworking concrete guys, and he's helping with the pour and finishing today. To avoid getting air pockets in your concrete, you can either rod the concrete with a tool like I'm doing around 25 times per area, or you can use a vibrator like Albert is using, not the other kind.
What size rock is this? 3/4?
That's river rock. Man, that's the best you can get.
Yeah.
Up here in North Texas, we pour with a lot of crushed stone that comes from the northwest part of the Metroplex. But river rock comes from the south part of the Metroplex.
Right.
So when you get river rock, it's stronger for some reason. Whenever we saw cut, you can't cut it through the river rock. It's very hard. You got to get special diamond blades for it.
Mm-hmm.
Only the ramp to the shed has the safety grooves and a broomed finish for a non-slip surface. We are going for a smooth concrete look like a garage floor. It would be worth noticing a repeating process of floating the surface first, troweling the edges, trowel the main surface about 3 times as the concrete is setting up. Albert is wearing shoes that doesn't have any tread on it, so he's not going to, dig into the concrete or leave any marks. But he is finishing kind of backwards and covering up his tracks. Are you ready to watch how to frame a shed? Check the shed playlist and watch the video coming up next.